Alta.
Thank you, sir. The weekend saw significant weather events that dramatically impact on the lives of many South Australians. More than 160,000 SA Power Networks customers experienced blackouts as a result of Saturday's storms. Constituents in Moree Alta, across the eastern suburbs, I know the member for Hartley's electorate, indeed, sir, right across metropolitan Adelaide and certain regions in South Australia, felt dramatic impacts. Some people suffered trees and branches falling on their houses and cars and other property. Some people experienced severe and significant flooding events. I know that some of my constituents had that very profound experience, and it was a great challenge to many. The loss of power was a dramatic impact for residents and indeed businesses. Businesses in Newton, for example, such as Fine Foods Kachina, who I visited first thing Sunday morning after talking to the owners there, as I understand it, tens and tens of thousands of dollars worth of stock which had to be destroyed as a result of the power outages. Businesses right across Moree Alta and metropolitan South Australia have had dramatic impacts. Now, some of them have been insured for stock, but that doesn't take into account anything like the significant costs to those businesses, of course, not to mention the fact that it is such an extraordinary and heartbreaking waste of so much good product, so much good South Australian product. There were more than 420,000 lightning strikes and winds up to 106 kilometres an hour, with the Adelaide Hills and the southern suburbs also hit very, very hard. As of this morning, there were still more than 12,000 SA Power Networks customers without power. I know in my electorate that includes residents in Athelston and Ross Trevor. Indeed, I was very fortunate. My family had power restored only in the early hours of Monday morning. We were expecting to be out until tonight, as indeed were many others. I know in the member for Hartley's area, residents in Felixstowe, Paradise and across the South Australian metropolitan area, thousands and thousands still affected. Nearly 50 schools were closed on Monday, with another 24 still closed today. This is the largest outage event experienced in South Australia since the statewide blackout in 2016, and emergency services workers have been working around the clock since Saturday. Crews from interstate have been brought in. I visited the Athelston CFS on Sunday morning, bringing them some food that was still good from Fine Foods Kachina, as it happens, and indeed they had been out until 3 in the morning and they were back in the CFS at 8 o'clock, prepared to do another full day's work, and they were again going through the night, as were so many other volunteers and personnel, CFS brigades, SES units and other volunteer groups around the state. South Australians, sir, should be commended upon their resilience over the last few days. Looking forward, we know that the storms have damaged our interconnector with Victoria, which has left us islanded from the national grid. The interconnector is critical, sir, because it allows us to import power at a time of need, but equally important, sir, it allows us to export when we produce excess renewable energy. The former member for Stewart, Dan van Holst-Pellekaan, would regularly inform the House about the risks of what it would do to damage the system if we had a situation of net negative demand on a regular basis. That is why the interconnector to New South Wales was such a critical priority for the former Marshall Liberal government. That is why the former Marshall Liberal government invested in that interconnector between South Australia and New South Wales. Project Energy Connect, a $2.4 billion infrastructure project that will drive billions upon billions of dollars of investment into renewable energy projects, and it will serve to create thousands of new jobs. Will work to drive down the price of electricity for families and businesses around our state. And importantly, in light of recent events, Project Energy Connect will strengthen our power grid. If Project Energy Connect were in place, then the next few days would be less nervous, sir. The Labor Party, of course, promised to have that South Australian-New South Wales interconnector 20 years ago, in 2002. It was on Mike Rand's pledge card. There are people who put contact over those pledge cards, and they still survive to this day. The Museum for Democracy no doubt has a copy. People can look it up, but it was one of the key pledges that Rand would deliver, and then Labor spent 16 years not interested until it was invested in, supported by the Marshall Liberal government against the constant argument, the constant refrain from the now Minister for Energy and Mining when he was in opposition, that, of course, his criticisms were constant. He talked down the project vigorously ever since it was announced, until yesterday, when he went on radio and finally supported it. We welcome that support. We look forward to the government overseeing the final delivery of this crucial project, and I thank once again all of our emergency services volunteers and personnel who have served our state, our residents so well over the last 4 days.